Welcome to the Behind the Board on EQing guitar. We're going to be talking about negative EQs, how we could subtract some of the stuff we don't want, leaving the stuff we do want. All of these EQ videos are instrument specific, and we'll have some tips on the instrument itself. So even if it gets a little bit redundant, please go through all of them and pick up all the tips you can, because as we move towards making a mix, you're going to want to know all of this stuff. So let's dig in first to the bass track. We're going to solo it out by pressing the S button under bass. We're going to bring in a plug-in here, right where it says inserts A through E. If you don't have it, go ahead and click right over here, your edit window view selector, and click your inserts A through E on so we can start working. Go to plug-in, go to EQ, go to EQ3 7 band. That's the one we will be using all the time. It is a go-to. It sounds terrific, and it's a utility plugin. It really helps you out. Okay, so this is a 7-band EQ plugin. I know you're looking at it going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's not all it has. It has these two filters up here. If you pop them in, here's your high pass filter. I'll press the in and it'll show right here, so keep your eye on that. And there it is, and I could adjust the frequency. So there's another band right there, and has a low pass filter. It's just going to do the opposite side, just like that. So those are my 7 bands that I get to work with. And let's start working on this bass track. We're going to do some sweeps. The sweeps are really important to find out what's poking out at us too much, what's really going to overload and come up a little too hot, some sounds that need to be pushed down so that we could have a nice warm bass tone rather than a boomy bass tone, rather than a clicky bass tone. We got to get that stuff out of there and just leave ourselves with the sound that we want. So first things first, we'll do the LMF, the low mid frequency. Adjust the Q to 10. So with the Q, let's blast the gain. Explain the Q here. Blast the gain up to 18. Now the Q, adjust the band width. So if we have a width that's really sharp like this, it's at a Q of 10. And if we want to get a fatter band width, we could keep going down. Here's a Q of about 1, and we could keep going down. Here's a Q of about 0.1. But we're going to use this really sharp one so we could point out very specific frequencies in this bass guitar, and we'll do the same thing for all the other guitars, and that is how that works. So let's get to work on it. What we're going to do is adjust the frequency as it's playing back and see what pops out at us. All right, that one has a bit of a boomy sound to it, especially on that first note. You could hear that coming up. You could even see how high the out is going over the in here. And right now, don't worry too much about redlining. If your in is redlining, bring that down. If your out is redlining, bring this one down. Of course, it's that simple. But let's go ahead and take this piece down a bit. Now, what we want to do is adjust the Q to make sure we get all of it, but we don't get parts of the sound that we do like. See, that would be too wide. We're getting parts of the sound we do like. That first move that I made sounded pretty good right here, right at about 8.22. That's about where I want to be. I'm going to dunk that down, maybe -5. All right, that won't boom out at us anymore. Let's try to get some more ones with this yellow fella right here. That's your middle frequency. Bring the Q to 10, blast the gain up, and start your frequency sweeps. So we have a clicky little sound. Sounds like the pick hitting the bass. It was definitely played with a pick, as you could hear that clicking sound right around here. So we want to get rid of that a little bit. Let's adjust our Q and see exactly where it is. I'm right around 6.7 frequency 1.04 kilohertz. I'm going to bring that down as well, probably around 4. Just duck that a little bit. It wasn't popping out as heavy as was the low frequency one, but I want to get it out of there a little bit. Let's move on to the green, see if there's anything higher. I'm going to say I doubt there's anything higher because we're pretty high up for a bass already. Let's see where this is going. All right, nothing jumping out at me there. Instead of bringing it back to 0, I will just take it out. All you have to do is press the in button. It becomes unhighlighted, and no longer are you using that band. Now, one more quick thing I like to do on bass, I actually use this filter here, this high pass filter. Press the in button and it starts its way in. Put your Q up to 12, and we're going to remove the very, very bassy part of the bass, a part that is basically inaudible. I like to remove just a little bit of it, just to give it a little extra room for when the bass drum hits, so it has maybe 80 hertz and under to itself. This is really pretty much inaudible to humans, but you will feel it, and I like to feel it through the kick drum instead of the bass. You could do the opposite, but this is my advice as of right now, and as you're doing a mix and you get to see those things interact, which we won't be doing now, we won't get to see those things interact till we get to mixing. You'll feel which one you like better, if you like the bass down there and the kick drum more in the middle range, or you like it the opposite way, or what your artists are asking for is even more important than that. So you'll probably adjust that differently for different people. But here I like to take a little bit out of your bass. And that's it. We have our EQ set there. So let's take our solo off and move down to our guitar left. Solo that out. And let's bring in a plugin, EQ3 7 band. All right, fantastic. Now we have our EQ3 7 band in here. We're going to do a very similar thing. Let's start off by taking out some of the lower frequencies. On these guitars, we really don't need them too low. They're supposed to sit in the mid to upper range on most records. So let's pull out to about 160, it looks like, and make sure your Q is at about 12. I'll pull out to about 160. All that low stuff is just not really supposed to be there. It's just kind of humming. It's going to mess up your record a bit. It's going to be a little dark. And then let's start doing our sweeps on this. So same thing that we did on bass, but we're looking for different things as we move through the guitar. So here we go, low, middle, frequency, Q on 10, gain on 18. Let's move around. Ooh, let's get closer to the guitar part. You might want to click right before this bigger guitar part here. It's right around 40 seconds, so we could go ahead and have a lot to work with. And you might want to pan it to the middle. I'm a big fan of that. I like to listen with both ears as I listen back to this stuff, so I really know where things are. You can hear right there. Especially during the muted part, there's a little bit of just sizzle going out there that it's a little wobbly. We don't want that. Let's bring it a little closer to that muted part. I'll zoom in so you guys can see with me where the muted part is. We start really recognizing the difference in the waves. So this is open, and as it comes down a little bit, you'll probably become muted. And you could hear how wobbly that gets right around this frequency. Let's adjust that Q, find exactly where the middle is. Looks to be right around that 7.4 as well. And that's good. We don't want those Qs to be too wide, maybe on certain instruments, such as toms, and we'll see that in the drum video. So really, as much as this might feel redundant, you're going to get some advice on every instrument, and it's good to get that. So we took that out. That sounds way better. Let's move over to our middle frequency, our yellow guy. Q on 10, gain on 18, do our sweeps again. I'll start from the heavier part. Wow, right there has some rough stuff, but I'm going to check everything below it first and make sure there's nothing else. We got a bad one right there. It looks to be a very small one. It looks to be a Q of very sharp, like a 10, but let's adjust anyway. Yeah, it's a Q right about 10. The wider you get, you start taking things that you actually still want to hear. So let's remove that. I'm going down negative 6.7. Great. Now the green guy, here we go. Bring him up. let's start him where we left off the yellow and start moving up from there. That seems to be the rough one right there. You know, all these frequencies are going to sound pretty strange because we're blasting them, but the ones that really pop out are the ones we want to take down a bit because they're coming above all the rest of them, and that'll really give us some nasty sounds. I found my Q right above 8 there. Looks like where the Q will be. I'll drop that down, maybe a 4. And let's go to the high frequency. We don't want it on this mode that it's on already. This is its shelf mode. Put it on its normal mode. It's right at, by the HF. Just click this one instead. Bring our Q all the way up to 10, gain to 18. Let's find out if there's anything really rough going on the high end. So right there, that's a bit much. We'll just dip that a little bit. I'm going to dip that 3.7 dBs. We have a much more controlled guitar sound. And you can check what you did by just pressing this bypass button, listening to the original, and then pressing the bypass and listening what you got now. You have a much more controlled sound. It doesn't sound like you're doing a ton to it right now, but it really does affect it a lot as you get to layering your guitars and everything like that. These frequencies pop out more and more and more, especially when we start compressing. So this starts to really even things out and make it sound good. So go ahead and just complete this. Go to the next guitar. I'll give you a hint. The next guitar is actually just a double. You could go ahead and copy that down. I'll just do that with you right now. Hit your Alt-Option key, grab your EQ, paste it down. You got those two handled. Now from there you have other stuff going on. This chorus lead is a new guitar tune, clean guitar is a new guitar tune, and the verse lead is a new guitar tune. So you can go into your EQ7s, mess around with them a little bit, see what you did, hit the bypass, unbypass, start learning from doing it, and really get a feel for what you like in an EQ. But for now, stick with the subtractive EQs. And by subtractive, I mean, let me open this up, that we're taking things away. Instead of raising everything that we left, we could have raised this, raised this, raised this, and wound up with a similar type of thing. We subtracted the sounds we didn't want and just left what we do want. A lot of good reasons to do that. One of them is that as we take away gain, we don't lose any quality. As we add gain, we might lose a little tiny bit of quality. So taking away gain is the way to go. And after that, you might even want to try some of your smoother EQs. If you're saying, hey, the rhythm guitars are a little bit too low endy, let me add some high end, you're welcome to do that. Go to your guitar right now. I'm just going to do this with you real quick, your EQ3 7-band. And as you can see, we're stacking this plugin. We already have an EQ doing all of our negative. Now we'll have a smooth one, just giving us some high end. Let's take a listen to what it sounds like without it. I'll put it to the middle. And now let's use our shelf version of the high frequency. And we'll start it right around 2K. And now we have more of a high-endy guitar. That's all stuff we can do after you do your subtractive stuff. But definitely do your subtractive stuff first. Make your way through the rest of this track doing that. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for being with me on this one. Take care.